What if I told you the most dangerous villains aren't the ones you hated? They're the ones you hesitated on. That split second where you didn't say monster. You said, wait. That's what we're talking about today. Not excuses, not redemption, just that pause. And by the end, tell me which one made you hesitate the longest. Let's start loud. Megamind.
How did she find my hideout?
How did you find his hideout?
Not every villain walks in looking dangerous. Sometimes they start out as a joke, or the punchline. And honestly, the thing that makes you hesitate isn't always what they did, it's why. Take the guy who all but yells, "I'm the bad guy," every time he whips his cape and launches into a monologue. Yeah, Megamind, the villain who didn't know how to be anything else.
We must find a suitable subject.
Someone with noble heart and mind.
He blows up half the city, kidnaps the same reporter over and over, and turns his beef with the hero into this weird, over-the-top game. Subtlety? Not really his thing. He calls himself Megamind for crying out loud. That's some next-level branding. He builds death rays. He sets up public fights. He celebrates beating Metro Man like he just won some evil championship. And let's be real, the man made up a fake hero just so he'd have someone to fight. That's dedication.
So I too will make this puppet corn and win over those mindless drones.
He is the textbook villain. Giant brain, even bigger ego. Loves a dramatic speech. The city's scared of him, and when he finally wins and Metro Man disappears, he stands on a skyscraper and basically declares war on goodness itself. Classic bad guy stuff.
I learned how to dehydrate animate objects and rehydrate them at will.
Right? But here's where things get a little messy. Megamind wasn't born evil, he was just born different. He crash lands on Earth, and right away, he's in the wrong place. Metro Man gets a mansion. Megamind, prison. One kid hears he's special. The other hears he's a problem.
The bad boy.
Kids don't invent their own stories. They pick up the ones people hand them. Metro Man gets applause for just being there. Megamind gets in trouble for even trying. In school, Metro Man lifts the whole building and everyone cheers. Megamind tries to build something and whoops, it catches fire. Nobody's curious, they just nod. See? The troublemaker. That label sticks. After a while, it hardens. When people treat you like the villain long enough, you start acting the part. You practice it. That's the crack.
If I was the bad boy, then I was going to be the baddest boy of them all.
Always being compared to the golden child. Failing in front of everyone. Realizing the world has already decided who you are. Megamind doesn't pick evil because he loves hurting people.
No! God, please, no! No! No!
He does it because it's the one thing he's good at. The only role that feels like it fits. His rivalry with Metro Man stops being about hate. It turns into his purpose. Without a hero, he's lost. So when he finally wins, something weird happens. He gets bored. There's no thrill in running the show alone, no joy in crushing his opponent, because it was never about winning. It was about feeling like he belonged somewhere.
You did?
Yes! And you should look back right now!
Oh, I get it!
The villain thing was just an act. Something he did, not who he is. The mask slips. Not because someone forgives him, not because the city suddenly loves him, because he stops to actually question it all. Tai Lung.
I was the Dragon Warrior. You always knew.
Tai Lung doesn't start as a monster. He starts as the favorite, the prodigy, the kid everyone claps for. In Kung Fu Panda, before he's breaking out of prison or wiping out entire squads of guards, he's just this insanely talented student. Fast, focused, disciplined, the best in the room every single time. And more importantly, he's told he's special.
What did you do? Nothing.
You were not meant to be the Dragon Warrior. That was not my fault.
Not your fault. Who filled my head with dreams?
Master Shifu doesn't just train him, he builds him up, over and over. You're destined for greatness. You will be the Dragon Warrior. That idea isn't subtle, it's repeated, reinforced, practically engraved into his identity.
Who denied me my destiny?
So Tai Lung doesn't just want the Dragon Scroll, he expects it. Because that's what he was raised to believe. Now here's where the hesitation starts. When the ceremony finally comes, when he stands there waiting, and Oogway says no, that moment hits. Not because he didn't get a prize, but because the entire story he was told about himself just collapsed in public. Imagine training your whole life for one role, every sacrifice pointed in one direction, every bruise worth it because it leads to that moment, and then someone calmly says, "You are not the one." That's not just rejection, that's humiliation. You can actually see it on his face. It's not cartoonish anger, it's shock, then disbelief, then something darker. And for a second, just a second, you get it. Because nobody prepared him for that possibility. No one ever told him, you might not get this. He was raised like it was inevitable. That's the crack, not evil, expectation. But here's the thing, plenty of people get rejected. Most don't try to burn the valley down. Tai Lung doesn't sit with the disappointment. He doesn't rethink who he is. He doesn't grow. He lashes out.
Me, the scroll. I would rather die.
He attacks the village. He demands the scroll. He decides that if destiny won't crown him, he'll take it by force. That's the shift. And years later, when he breaks out of prison, and that escape scene is wild, by the way, it's not chaotic rage. It's controlled, focused, efficient. He's not confused anymore. He's convinced. Convinced he was robbed. Convinced he was right. And that belief is what makes him dangerous. You understand the pressure he was under. You understand what it does to someone to be raised on praise and destiny, and then suddenly told, actually no. But understanding it doesn't erase what he does next.
What I ever did, I did to make you proud!
When he finally gets the Dragon Scroll, when he opens it and it's blank, that's the moment that lands hardest. All that destruction, all that obsession, all that anger, for something that was never about the scroll. The power was never in a title. It wasn't in a prophecy. It wasn't in someone else naming him chosen. It was in him the whole time. And that's the tragedy.
Who are you supposed to be?
Well, I'm Incrediboy.
Syndrome. Not every villain begins in the dark. Sometimes it all starts with obsession dressed up as admiration, with a kid's chest straining to hold all that hero worship. That was Syndrome once. On the surface, he looks like your standard bad guy. He kidnaps Mr. Incredible, sets killer robots loose, and drops that chilling line. When everyone's super, no one will be. It's bold, loud, and let's be real, it's scary. Classic villain stuff, but that's just what you see first.
I'm your #1 fan.
The real story starts long before the island, the robots, or the red suit. Before Syndrome, there was Buddy. Buddy was just a kid, no powers, living in a world obsessed with people who had them. All he wanted was to matter, to stand beside his hero, to be invited in. He didn't invent rocket boots to take heroes down, not at the start. He built them to keep up. He wanted to belong. He wanted a mentor. He wanted to be part of something bigger. Then came the shutout. Go home, buddy. I work alone. It wasn't cruel, just honest. It wasn't meant to wound, but it did.
This is because I don't have powers, isn't it? Well, not every superhero has powers.
For Buddy, it felt like the world slamming the door in his face. His idol told him he didn't count. His dream, just gone. Suddenly, he was invisible. That's where it broke. Not with gadgets or robot armies, not with any big, evil master plan. The crack opened up the moment admiration twisted into obsession. When trying to be seen turns into something raw, something desperate, because being ignored hurts more than being hated.
I am your biggest fan.
Buddy.
My name is not Buddy!
Getting brushed off by your hero, hearing you're not enough, getting pushed aside like you don't even register. Almost everyone's been there, in some way. That's what makes Syndrome so unsettling. You see his pain, you see the roots of it, and for a second, you hesitate before you just slap the villain label on him. But he didn't hesitate. He doubled down. He built weapons. He decided if he couldn't join the club, he'd burn it down. He didn't just want to be noticed anymore. He wanted to be the one calling the shots, to tear up the system that left him out.
I'm sorry.
See? Now you respect me, because I'm a threat.
And here's the part that gets under your skin. Even when he's winning, even when he's got Mr. Incredible on the ropes, he's still not satisfied. He talks too much. He's still performing. Deep down, he's still that kid dying to be seen. That's what makes it so real. That's the pause.
Mr. Incredible calling for help? Help me, help me.
We get the crack, we know the sting of rejection, we see the wound, but we also see the destruction he piled on top of it. That's why Syndrome isn't just another villain. He's the one who makes you stop and think. Not because he's harmless, he's not. Not because he isn't a real threat, he absolutely is. But because the line between wanting to be seen and wanting revenge is so thin, you almost feel yourself wobbling on it.
Go home, buddy. Now.
Syndrome didn't start out evil. He started out invisible. He got pushed aside. Then he made his choice. To turn hurt into spectacle. To turn being dismissed into a vendetta that changed everything. And honestly, that's the part that sticks, especially when you're grown up. The moment when a kid you relate to becomes the villain you're scared of. So what comes next? Death.
I just love the smell of fear.
Not every villain earns your hatred the same way. Some scare you because they're just plain cruel. Others twist your mind because they're hurting inside. And then there's the kind that gets under your skin simply by reminding you of something you'd rather ignore.
Oh, well. If it isn't Puss in Boots himself.
That's where Death comes in. You don't freeze up because he's flashy or dramatic. You freeze because, with him, fear feels like a fact. Something you can't dodge. The moment Death shows up in Puss in Boots, The Last Wish, he doesn't bother with theatrics. No big entrance, no shouting, no threat. He just strolls into a lively tavern, sits across from Puss, and, well, that's enough. He leans back, swings his scythe around, starts whistling that empty, bone-chilling tune, and suddenly, the whole scene holds its breath. And then it hits you. Death isn't out for revenge or glory. He doesn't even care if you know his name. He's just here because it's time. That's the kind of villain that makes you hesitate. Not because he's wrong, but because he's right. He's a fact you've been trying not to face.
Party with your past lives, or your past deaths, as I like to call them.
Puss, who spent 8 lives laughing at danger, finally meets someone he can't outsmart. Death doesn't gamble. He doesn't play favorites. He's just following the rules, the same ones Puss kept ignoring. But the story doesn't keep Death at arm's length. There's a moment where he crosses a line, quietly, but it's chilling. He makes it personal. He's not just a force of nature anymore. He taunts, he lingers, he makes the lesson sting. Suddenly what you accepted in your head hits you in the gut.
But you didn't even notice me, because Puss in Boots laughs in the face of death.
Watching Death, you realize fear isn't always about cruelty. Sometimes it's about certainty. It's that quiet voice reminding you life runs out, that choices count, that even heroes can't outrun the bill forever. And Puss? He reacts like anyone would. Panicked, scrappy, trying every trick, but you can see it in him. He knows the game's changed. Every leap, every pose, every last effort is heavy with the truth that the end isn't optional.
I'm not a cat person. I find the very idea of 9 lives.
That's where you hesitate. Death doesn't explain himself. There's no tragic childhood, no secret pain. He doesn't ask for pity. He's just here, and you can't argue with that. He's what everyone meets, eventually. And that makes him more unsettling than any other villain in this story. Next time you catch yourself about to call someone a villain, stop for a second and think, why? Was it because you saw their pain? Did their reasoning make sense? Even a little? Or was it something deeper? A part of you that recognized their struggle, even if you'd never go down that road yourself. Villains don't always come from the shadows. Sometimes it all begins with a crack, a break you barely notice at first. And honestly, the most interesting part isn't always what they did. It's the moment you hesitated, because that says more than you think.